Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 42 of GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace. I was wrong last week, said it was 42, but that was 41. I am the professor, or not really a professor, but that's what I call myself. And over here is, no, that's not Ace, that is Shpoo. Shpoo's joining in tonight. Ace, you are kind of a ghost. AJ had some work stuff going on, so thank you so much for coming on with us, Shpoo, and helping us do this. And we wanted to talk a little bit about this little series that was on Disney Plus called WandaVision. Assuming that you've all watched that, and if you haven't watched it, pause the video, go watch the whole thing, and come back.
Well worth the watch.
Well worth the watch. So let me pull up a picture there from the final episode. I love the superhero battle hands there too. I mean that's so stereotypical. All right. So we're gonna just okay. Well, there we go. Talking about lighting issues. Mine I accidentally touched the wire and
I tried 3 different combinations. It's something about the camera. I love the camera that's on this phone. But when doing video, for some reason, with the phone, the lighting is incredibly bright. I tried 3 different combinations, and all 3 of them, I was just completely washed out, and I don't know why. I've done plenty of these and never had this issue.
Yeah.
So sorry that I'm so blinding today, but, well, that's just how it is.
So you're apologizing for being a white boy. So that's typical nowadays, right?
Well, I'm old too, which doesn't help.
Yeah, that's true.
There we go. I'll just sit like this the whole time.
Well, we're going to be looking at some lighting changes, and I'm actually looking at a camera for you guys and some other things. Hopefully, so maybe a Kickstarter or something coming up in the future to get some equipment upgraded for all of us to be able to do the show better. But that's neither here nor there. We want to spend our time today talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe's television series WandaVision on Disney Plus. So what's your overall impressions? Because I've actually heard some fans that have loved it, and I've heard some fans that just were dogging it. So where are you at on this, Shpoo?
I loved it, but also what needs to be understood is that I have this curse. It is a gift and a curse, where I can watch a little bit of anything, literally anything, and I can tell you this is how the rest of it's going to play out. So there were times during WandaVision where I genuinely sat back and was like, I have no idea.
Right.
And of course, every little thing that happened got people speculating left and right. Me, no different. I was doing the same. But It was probably about, I would say, being generous, by the 5th or 6th episode, I was like, there's not going to be some big bad. It's going to be Agatha Harkness, if anything. And I said this all the way up to the end, where I basically was like, if we get whoever she's getting her power from, if we get that at all, it'll be an after credit scene. Of course, we didn't get that, but we did get the Darkhold, which obviously, is potentially setting up either Mephisto, Chthon, or Nightmare, depending on where they want to go with it. But you got to keep in mind, Mephisto was like the big speculated thing for so long. But Disney tends to kind of suck up to China because China is an enormous market. And if they were to introduce Mephisto into the MCU, literally the devil, then it will not get released in China. period. They've got bans on that.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it was even like the X-Men even didn't get released over there because they were mutants. Like, there's so many different things that they do not allow past the censors, and anything involving demons or, you know, Satan especially is a big no-no. So Mephisto is out. So I knew that for a long time. I was like, unless they put some kind of different spin on it. Well, we knew very, very early on, they said that Nightmare was going to be the big bad in Doctor Strange 2. That's the rumor. So I thought, okay, maybe they'll go that way. Or, you know, of course, introducing the Darkhold, that made me think, okay, maybe it's Chthon.
Right.
So what I think will end up happening is that they'll probably go with probably Nightmare just because he's better known, but they will kind of make Nightmare sort of take Mephisto and Nightmare and or Chthon and just squash them into one guy, and that's what we will probably end up getting. But basically what it kind of boils down to, and the other thought that I had was, if they're going to come out with some enormous MCU changing reveal, like your Reed Richards, that was, you know, speculated on for a long time, Mephisto, whatever it may be, they're going to want to charge people for that. They're going to want to put that in the theaters. This is a TV show. This is going to be, okay, we can spend the first hour of the next movie with an exposition dump to get everybody where we need them to be, or we can do a TV show and do it over 9 episodes. Right. So keeping that in mind, I loved where it went. I thought it was fun. It kept people guessing. I loved every minute of
it. It definitely kept people guessing the whole time, right up till the end. And yeah, I also loved it. I had a great time watching it. My son and I were watching it together. He's 11, and he would say, oh, "Is it over already?" I mean, every episode. The first couple. Yeah, he was watching the first couple, and he's like, "Why is it black and white? Why?" Like, well, it's like the old TV shows, son. And he had seen, you know, glimpses of black and white shows, because I'll find those stations that show old television shows and old movies, and he'll be like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm watching, you know, whatever, Bewitched or whatever." Because I mean, they played a lot of that, which was awesome. Yeah, the formatting was really interesting, because you really had no clue what was going on the first 4 episodes until they kind of pulled back to show you what was going on. And you're like, what's going on? We're moving somewhere, but I don't really know where, until, you know, they finally revealed what's going on outside the dome.
And I love the fact that they set things up that they never answered.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we didn't get to have, you know, if they would have tried to answer everything, then the last episode would have been like 2.5 hours long. I mean, we never found out who the FBI informant was, because guess what? It's not important to the story. We didn't find out who, you know, where did Agatha get her power from? We know she got it from the Darkhold, but who is behind the Darkhold in the MCU? Okay, we'll probably also find that out later.
We did see her coven and all of that. I mean, so basically showing how she became a witch and how she grew into that and the kind of person she was. We did see some of that. So as far as she's concerned, I think we kind of answered the important stuff for her. Other than, you know, she's not been the nanny for Reed Richards yet, but for Franklin Richards, I mean.
Right, but with the way that it ended, she did put it in there to where Wanda can always go back to her for help.
Right.
The whole, you know, if you're going to need someone to teach you, well, if I need you, I know where to find you.
Right.
Everything is now set where it needs to be, so that we can jump forward and not just crawl forward.
Right.
We can go into Doctor Strange 2 without having to set up all this, you know, otherworldly power. Yes, she's always been incredibly powerful, but now she is finally the Scarlet Witch.
Right.
So when Doctor Strange 2 comes along, we can just go.
Exactly. Well, and setting her up to that now that she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. That's a pretty big deal. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That is the one thing that did catch me off guard, is I was expecting Doctor Strange to show up. Out of
I
all the
was
rumors
too.
that were floating around, I was expecting some kind of bigger setup for Doctor Strange 2. Plus, there was I guess a cast, a WandaVision cast, basically one of these, a live stream type of deal, where they were doing a table read and Benedict Cumberbatch showed up for it. And that's what actually got the ball rolling on him showing up in the movie or in the show.
Right.
But it would have made sense, since we know that is the next time we will see Wanda is in that movie. So
Well,
that
half expecting him at the end when they go to the cabin, and then you're like, "Who's in the other room?" I expected it to be Doctor Strange sitting there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I actually had to go rewatch the ending a couple times to make sure I'm like, is this just like her witch self, and this is her physical self, or is she captive by something? Is somebody? Because it almost looks like she's bound. So then I'm like, did somebody bind her? Is somebody in control? And then I'm like, I don't think so. I think it's just her. I think she's reading the Darkhold, and
she's astral projecting. She's astral projecting is what I put that as.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I watched a breakdown video that pointed out something that I never would have caught in a million years, and they're like, that scene shows that she's more powerful than Doctor Strange, because when we saw Doctor Strange doing his astral projecting, he was sleeping.
Right.
His body was asleep while he astral projected, and it kind of implying that his body must rest in order for him to be powerful enough to do that. Where she's just making tea and
that's true,
around just hanging out while doing that at the same. So just accomplishing two tasks at once. So nice little subtle thing there. Maybe, we don't know, but if you take it that way, for sure.
Then you get the voices at the end that sure sound like her kids that don't exist, but maybe her kids in a different dimension.
Or I've seen somewhere that they have actually, that the boys from the show have actually been seen on the set of Doctor Strange 2. That could be, I don't know if that is 100% confirmed, but I've heard that they have been seen and I did see some pictures that showed them and these pictures were supposedly not from the set. So I don't know. But from what I understand, they are going to pop up in the movie.
Well, that makes sense. If you're going through a multiverse, then I mean they're going to be there.
Multiverse, it doesn't have to mean anything. It just means that in one other reality, the kids are already there.
Right. So, exactly. Well, and I saw a picture that implied maybe this version of Quicksilver will be there also for Doctor Strange. So
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, I saw a picture, and that it was giving the implication that was, and that may just be a hot speculation rumor, but I'm like, all right.
Actually, no, I take that back. I did see that as well. It was a video that was talking to the director of the final episode.
Right.
And it was talking about a deleted scene that they did film that would have been cool to see, because it actually, I kind of have to backtrack on what I said about Mephisto a minute ago, because this scene maybe does imply Mephisto. But this was a scene that was supposed to be in the final episode. It was cut. They did film this, so we may see it at some point. But it's the boys, Monica, and Ralph, Quicksilver, that they, while everybody's off fighting and stuff, that they go back to, they go to try to steal the Darkhold, hoping that, maybe there will be something in there to stop Agatha. The boys are like, we saw it while we were down, in the basement. So they go down there to get it, and Senior Scratchy, which AJ and I talked about, I wonder if that's not going to be like her son, Nicholas Scratch,
right,
somehow transformed to a rabbit. But it actually transforms into a demon and attacks them. But they were so that was the scene. But then if I'm again not 100% on this, but I do believe that he also said that Evan Peters has officially been confirmed for Doctor Strange 2, but I could be wrong about that one.
I think I heard the same thing. Yeah, that was what I'd seen saying that he had been confirmed. Now, a lot of these things we don't know until it's official. If IMDb says it, I believe it. If it's coming from ABC, comic book site or whatever, there's a lot of speculation out there. A lot of people write articles that.
As much as I love IMDb, it's a lot like Wikipedia, where anyone can edit it. So you kind of have to take IMDb with a grain of salt too.
And that's true. Usually, if the cast member is listed there, especially with a picture, it's usually true.
Yeah, but we do know that Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, and a couple of other people from the X-Men franchise have all been approached to reprise their roles from the X-Men in the MCU. And have you heard the big Falcon and Winter Soldier rumor as far as X-Men are concerned? This was a rumor that came out a long time ago, like over a year and a half ago almost, right when they started filming. And something came out recently that kind of gives a little bit of credence to that rumor, that it talked about this big fight scene where Baron Zemo actually has to team up and fight alongside Falcon and Winter Soldier. And what strengthens I can't talk, that rumor is that there was some set photos that came out recently that shows him fighting alongside them. But the rumor was that one of the people they're fighting, like Batroc the Leaper, somebody else, but then the third one that they're fighting is Omega Red.
Oh,
which is always been one of my favorite X-Men villains.
Yep, most definitely.
And we do know that Madripoor is going to show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, which that is a city that is almost exclusively tied to Wolverine. So
right,
it's coming. I would love for that one to be.
That'll be good.
So, yeah,
that would be really good. Yeah, I think the MCU can straighten out some of the problems with X-Men for sure. So,
I famously am on record for absolutely despising the X-Men movie. You know what my favorite X-Men movie was? Dark Phoenix.
Wow!
Out of all of them, I thought that it sucked the least. And it was a terrible, terrible movie. Laughably bad. But as far as an X-Men story goes, I thought it was the best. I hate the X-Men movies so much.
X2, I liked X2.
I mean, each one of them had bits and pieces that I liked. I could tell you something that I liked from all of them. But overall, I hated them. The moment that I saw Wolverine cry, I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm done. I love his little cameo in First Class where they're like, oh, yeah, I'm Charles Xavier, and he just tells them to F off right away. That's Wolverine.
Dang it. Yep, that is Wolverine. I saw that too and also went, oh, that's perfect. That's a great cameo because that's how Wolverine would be. So from the comics. So. Yeah. Except for like a foot shorter.
Yeah. You got a Wolverine running around that's taller than Cyclops. No. But I mean, I know that there are the days of the Hollywood actors being like itty bitty short. Those days are kind of over with.
Except for Tom Cruise.
A lot of Do what?
Except for Tom Cruise.
Except for Tom Cruise. Yeah, well, I mean, but he's like in his 50s now. So, I mean,
true.
You really going to cast Tom Cruise to play Wolverine? I mean, the average Hollywood actor now is around 6 foot to 6'3", which is weird to think about. But like, back in the day when they started to make these movies, there was a guy who would have been, he wasn't an actor, he was a wrestler, but would have been absolutely beautifully perfect to play Wolverine. But then he did some unspeakable things, and he's dead now. But that was Chris Benoit. If you know wrestling, Chris Benoit would have made a beautiful, beautiful Wolverine. I mean, his nickname back in the day was even the Canadian Wolverine.
Right. Which is funny because Wolverine comes from Canada. So
yeah,
exactly. All right. So we're kind of diverging off here a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, because we're still talking MCU. What did you think about the television show within the show, and how it was showing the commercials and the way it was shot, all that?
I thought it was brilliant. I mean, just having somebody who's gone through. I mean, we know very little about Wanda Maximoff in the MCU. Right. We learned a lot during this show, but overall, we know very little. So, but even with the very little that we know, to see how much trauma she has suffered in the short time she's been around is insane. And to know that, like, she grew up watching TV, just these old sitcoms, and that's where she found solace. It makes sense. So when you just snap and you can create a new reality, well, what better reality to create than a sitcom where everything is perfect, and even when the biggest of problems comes out, it's resolved in 30 minutes.
Right.
It's beautiful. I do want to know, however, and this was, I guess, one of the other questions that they never answered that I really wanted answered because my theory on it was wrong, but we never found out who the commercial people were. I really thought they were going to end up being her parents. But not only did they not, but we never found out who they actually are, and that bugs me a little because we never saw them anywhere else. So it's just two people that don't exist. I guess. I don't know. But yeah, just as a coping mechanism, I get it. TV and movies and stuff have always been my escape, so it makes sense.
Exactly right. No, I completely. There she is. I was going to say we had a message from her right here.
Not the other way around.
Hi guys.
How's it going, AJ? Good.
Oh, good.
Well,
it's going.
Welcome.
Oh, I can't be on here long. I'm getting ready to finish cooking dinner, but just thought to say hi.
We appreciate it.
There was.
I did just post that up.
Pop that up on screen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my favorite nerds. That's both.
That's a good thing. I like being somebody's favorite nerd. So, in the top 2 is always good. So there you go.
Right.
So I thought the television show thing was because it really kept you off balance at the beginning, and it really did that very, very well. You're like, what is going on? And then once they pulled back and you've got Darcy watching, you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But then you realize there are things happening that aren't going on the broadcast. And you're like,
that one of the best moments of that entire series was in the 3rd episode. So here everybody's acting all corny and goofy, and you got the Brady Bunch episode happening. And then all of a sudden, Monica starts talking about, well, your brother was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? Like, you see her snapping out of it, and you're like, oh, what's this? Oh, okay, what's this? But and then once you start bouncing back and forth, like the real world versus her, just the tonal shift that happens, it never got so jarring that it was annoying to watch. Everything made sense. Everything, like, tied in together, and you could look at everything and say, okay, this is what that really is. This is what that really is. And just when you really see the big picture of like that fourth episode where you get to where they're finally like, okay, here's what's happening. Because to think that it could have been so different, because originally they were going to release the first 3 episodes on the first night. Because of COVID, everything got pushed so far behind that I actually saw this was in that interview with that director guy again. He said that if they had went ahead and released the first 3 episodes together instead of the first 2 like we got, that the VFX for episode 9 would not have been ready in time for the release. They were literally working on the special effects for the last episode up to 2 days before its release.
I did not see that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Otherwise, we would have gotten 3 episodes, and I think that I in a way I feel like that would have kind of ruined it a little bit, because we saw the first 2 episodes, and in the second episode, you of course get the beekeeper, you get her resetting vision, stuff like that. So you get just enough to be like, what is happening? The helicopter, the thing with Dottie and the radio.
Right.
You get it just enough to be like, what is going on here? Let the speculation train leave the station. Whereas if we had gotten the first 3 and we had seen Monica snapping out of it by the end of the episode, it would have been like, okay, well, she must have come in from the outside somehow.
Right.
And it would have answered too many questions right up front, and I think that would have kind of ruined things a little bit. Personally, just my opinion.
No, I completely agree with that. That's the beauty of it, was that it kept you guessing and strung you along. And for people like you and me who figure things out, like my wife hates watching movies with me because I'll know who did it in a murder mystery in the first 5 minutes. So this is the person who's the killer. And then she's like, oh my God.
I bugged the crap out of a few friends of mine that were hardcore Game of Thrones fans, because we literally watched the first few episodes of the first season when it came out, and I told them how it was going to end. And here, fast forward 8 years, and I was right. I was like, it's going to end up being what's his face, Brom. And they're like, well, how did you know that? I said, because you always start a show with your main character. He was the first person we saw.
That's true. Well, and there's probably a lot of fans that hate that you predicted that, because they hate the ending so much. So.
Oh yeah. But I'm like, I had 8 years to prepare for. I knew it from the first episode. But I mean, in a way, and it's not bragging. It's not bragging by any means, because all of that means is it's really, really hard for me to enjoy watching movies or shows or anything.
Right.
Because the ending is already spoiled. I mean, I can think of one movie. Literally, I can think of one movie that I never could have called the ending to. And but shows like this, that's why I love shows like this, because it threw out so many ideas, or even the ideas that it threw out that were subtle. I'm like, well, I want to think that it's this, but that seems like it's way too simple. So even though you're right, you're thinking so much bigger, because you're like, well, surely they're not going to just do that. But then once you get further into it and you realize it doesn't make sense for them to go that far out there, pull it back a little bit. Okay, now my theories make sense.
Right.
But it still kept me on my toes, and that's rare.
I'm with you. I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah, anything like this, if it's not done well, I can still enjoy it. It's just a matter that I'm going to figure it out pretty quick. And I'm like, okay, but not, WandaVision kept me guessing, and I had a feeling you were right about it just being Agatha, but I still wanted to have fun speculating on who I thought it could be. But I also agree, because I knew if they were going to reveal it, it would be at the very end. It's one of those things where there's some people complaining that this didn't go far enough to further the MCU. But I look at that and I'm like, you don't have to have, you don't, and you don't have to further the MCU with everything. Sometimes you tell a story because you've got a good character and you got a good story. Tell the story. It doesn't have to push this out here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, though, is it did push a lot of things really far. They were just subtle things that won't seem important until they have a bigger impact later on. Like just her becoming officially becoming the Scarlet Witch. The implications of that, like up till now, she's had powers that she didn't really know how to use. Yes, she could do some stuff with them. But Scarlet, anybody that knows anything about the comics can tell you Scarlet Witch literally has rewritten reality, like all of reality by accident. And before she never could have done that. Before she could just, throw some power stuff here and there. But now that she's actually officially the Scarlet Witch, she's reading the Darkhold, which means she's learning how to use her magic. She is becoming a force to be reckoned with. So not only do we have that introduced, we have the Spectral Vision has been introduced. Which that's one thing I did not like. I've always loved Spectral Vision. I'm so excited that they introduced him, and I loved how they did it. But he's just like, I'm the Vision, and then he took off, and we never see him again. Why? Why did he not stick around and help out? Or did he take off to go destroy himself, realizing that he is the Vision? What happened there? That's probably the biggest thing that I did not like about the show was he just kind of took off. Was like, well, cool.
Well, and I think they're setting him up for something else in the MCU also. I mean, clearly. And I agree. Yeah, bringing him in, it was a really good way to save that character that we've already killed. So I was very pleased that they brought him in, and that. But you're right; they don't tell you what happens with him, but that's not a part of Wanda's story,
right? But it's like I said, the biggest thing that people need to keep in mind is it was never going to be some huge reveal because it's not going to make them billions of dollars. It's a show. It's not a movie. And if they had not done this show to get all of the characters to the point that they are now at, you would have had to spend the first 45 minutes to an hour of a movie explaining how they got there. We don't have to do that now. So now Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness can just... Doctor Strange can be like, oh God, the multiverse has gone mad. I need Wanda Maximoff. Let me go get her. And it doesn't have to have people going, well, how did she get this powerful all of a sudden? Because now we know how. All of those things have been established. So it while it may not have pushed major things forward, it pushed a lot of small things forward.
And pushed Wanda, our understanding of her and her character, along with her power. I mean, we have basically hit that little supercharge button on her abilities, and very well she could be the cause of the madness in the multiverse. We don't know. We don't really know what's going on. Maybe it's her kids yelling for her through the multiverse that causes her to break it, which would be easy for her to do at this point.
We know that all of, if you look at the commercials that they ran, all of them had meaning except for one. And as far as what we've seen so far, all of them had meaning except for one, and that was the one for the Nexus depression thing. What does Nexus mean? You've got the Lagos paper towels to clean up the mess that she made in Lagos. You've got the Strucker watch because of Baron von Strucker. You've got the toaster that was the bomb. You've got the Yo Magic yogurt, which is probably my favorite because it's like I grew strong by feeding on Yo Magic. Just like Agatha does by feeding on Yo Magic. But the one that doesn't have an answer by the end of the show is Nexus. And that is because in the comics, Wanda Maximoff is what's called a Nexus being, where in every reality throughout the multiverse, she is the same, a Nexus being. And I think that's what's going to, come into play and why he needs her in this.
Right.
So, yeah. And there was an Easter egg in one of the commercials that showed the Grim Reaper's helmet, and we don't know why. That was, I mean, could it just be a random Easter egg? Sure. But it had nothing to do with the show, which is strange.
Was that in the commercial, or was that in the intro? I thought that was in the intro of the Bewitched one.
It wasn't a commercial. It was the opening credits for the Bewitched opening credits for the second episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I loved. Yep,
yes,
exactly. Bewitched was always a great show. So
just the music, I mean, the song Agatha All Along is #1 on iTunes. that is great.
I agree. So who are your favorite side characters that weren't the major characters in the show?
Oh, I love Darcy. I'm a huge Kat Dennings fan it is.
Yeah. Well,
and Darcy, I've always loved Darcy, but I guess there's been a lot of, or there was some guy that started some kind of campaign or whatever for the MCU to do a Disney Plus show that is Jimmy Woo and Darcy in like an X-Files type show.
Right.
And I guess that the guy that started that campaign has now met with Marvel. Which, if that show becomes a thing, that would be amazing. It would be weird because it would be the first MCU thing involving two characters that are not from the comics.
Right.
Which would be weird, but I would still watch the hell out of that show.
Me too. Those guys are great. Those are my two favorite ones also. The boys are great though too. Like the boys a lot. Yeah. And of course, Agatha was amazing. That her portraying the nosy neighbor like from Bewitched, and who I think his name was Agnes also, if I remember right. But yeah, so I loved all of that. The showing Vision at work, that was really cool, and the characters there. It's like you've got a computer in your brain. What?
I loved the trope. Well, because there's so many TV tropes that they covered in that, like the whole, I understand that this is with computers, but what do we do here?
Right.
Because you never know what their job actually is. And even Monica, for that matter. That's another thing that they set up. We've officially set up Photon, and we've got her up into space where she needs to be for Captain Marvel 2. So another thing we've set up. We don't have to introduce another superhero because she's already been introduced.
We're all assuming that it's Nick Fury that they're talking about up there, but is it?
See, I don't know. I asked the question. It's like, well, is she talking about Nick Fury or is she talking about what's his name? Lego, the main Skrull guy.
Right.
Well, but Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home takes place 8 months after the blip ended.
Right.
So WandaVision is happening before Far From Home, and he is on Earth playing Nick Fury.
Right.
Well, just because he is 8 months from now doesn't mean he is right now.
And that's true. That's true. Well, and it could be somebody else. Could be somebody else also, but that was an interesting thing. I do have to say my favorite quote in the movie or in the series was when Darcy looks at it, they recast Petro. What? And I'm like, oh my gosh! And which plays into the whole recasting on Bewitched and recasting, all the different times you have a character just recasted. Even from Iron Man 1 to Iron Man 2, recasting there.
War Machine, Hulk. Recast, Ed
Hulk,
Norton.
Exactly. Yes.
It's a thing.
So that cracked me up.
It's great that used Evan Peters simply because, like, and then they threw the Kick-Ass line in there too.
Yes,
Just because
yes.
he was in Kick-Ass on
Right.
it. Not only was both him and Aaron Taylor Johnson from Kick-Ass, but Evan Peters' character in Kick-Ass also becomes a superhero called Ass
Right.
Kick, who was the yellow version of Kick-Ass. So they both playing the same character in that movie. Then they both go off to play Quicksilver, and now they're both playing Quicksilver in the MCU. So technically, 3 times now they played the same character.
Yeah. It's a multiverse problem.
And it's beautiful.
It is. I agree. That was, yeah. All the little subtleties of the show made it worthwhile. I mean, it was wonderful to watch. It was a ton of fun. It kept me and my son entertained. But the little things, you're just like, oh my gosh, that's a reference over here, and oh my gosh, this. So it was great. But yeah, the whole time when they went to where they changed the army to the circus, that was just hysterical. I mean, like, oh my gosh. Now we've got the strong man. We've got
all the clowns and the mimes.
All the clowns, yeah.
And just to see Darcy get sucked into that, I was like, oh, she's in the show.
Yep.
I was
driving off in the.
Yeah, just that was probably one of my favorite parts was in the Modern Family episode where Vision is out there, he's doing the interview and stuff, and then he's just like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I gotta get home.
And then they're stuck at the 4-way stop. Road construction. You're like, what? Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, it was a fun series. It was a lot of fun. I'm hoping that I have just as good of a time with Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm sure it'll be a whole different mindset, but I'm hoping we have this much fun. All right.
You got WandaVision that is a very niche show.
Yes.
You've got Loki coming out that also is a very niche show about a character that everybody already loves anyway.
Right.
And then you've got Falcon and Winter Soldier that's just, okay, here's a couple of action guys.
I think you're going to play like the buddy cop show. I mean, I really kind of see that it's going to be Lethal Weapon, but in a different way.
Right. I mean, I love both of those characters, and I will gladly watch every episode of it, and I'm sure it'll have us asking just as many questions and speculating over just as much stuff. But I just don't see this show officially has gotten higher ratings than even Endgame did. And I fear that Falcon and Winter Soldier is just going to be a major step backwards from that. Mm-hmm. Hopefully not. I will personally watch it. I just don't see the overall. You've got to really like those characters and like it's like, okay, if you liked Captain America, the Winter Soldier, which is one of the best MCU movies, in my opinion, the most well done.
Yes.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be the espionage, the action, It's going to be like, where does the Captain America movies, where do they sit amongst the rest of the MCU movies? That's where this is going to sit amongst the other Disney Plus shows.
Well,
and I just don't see it being quite as popular.
Those movies are very popular, though, in the MCU, and
they are, and it will do well. I just don't think it will do as well.
Well, I mean, you're not going to have Chris Evans with his shirt off in this movie, or if you do, he's an old man. But but still, the popularity of him, I think it's going to do well because I think people are dying for some action and some fun with that, and I think that's what you're going to get. You're going to get the cop buddy espionage action thing where they're constantly bickering back and forth, and I'm waiting for Falcon to say I'm too old for this and move on, and so
even though it should be Bucky saying that,
right, exactly. Maybe it will be, which would make it even funnier. So
But
So
even though on a potential of moving the MCU forward, like what we have established, this show actually has more potential to move things forward than the other two shows have.
right.
Because this kind of moved Wanda forward. Loki is going to move Loki forward, and also the whole time travel / multiverse thing, where this is going to take like, okay, here's the MCU proper. Let's move it forward. I think that this show will do that.
And I'm wondering if it's going to hit on Sword, because they mentioned Sword in WandaVision, and yet for those that don't know, Sword is basically Shield but set in space. It's basically to help protect us from alien invaders and to watch all that. But it's basically the evolution of Shield is for Sword. But since you've got two pretty big action guys, are they approached by somebody to be working with that? Is that how this begins? I don't know. I'm interested to see how it's going to go, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun, and I think especially for the people that weren't into the niche-ness of WandaVision, where they're like, I don't know. This here will give you. They're like, okay, I've not seen an MCU movie in 2 years. Give me something here. Okay, it's an action one. Great, let's do some action here. And the guys are going to be, like, oh, yeah, all right, yeah.
Yeah, basically, WandaVision took what would have been a boring exposition dump, and they put a fun spin on it so that it would be entertaining. If it hadn't been for the whole sitcom aspect of the show, WandaVision would have probably been extremely boring. Let's face it. It would have been boring. So they did that to make it fun, and it worked. It worked fantastic.
It did.
Versus this will be, like I said, it'll be like watching Civil War or Winter Soldier.
Right.
Which nothing wrong with that. But and then of course Loki is going to be Loki. But I can't wait for What If. That's the one I'm looking for.
That one will be awesome. Which will be animated for those that don't know. Yeah. But yes, telling stories. What if this had happened instead of that? Which were some of my favorite comics growing up. I always loved reading the What If comics. So yeah,
we used to do a show on Scallywag. It was called The Show, and we did kind of a lot like this, except it was every Monday through Friday, and we on more than one occasion we did episodes about comic book movies that should be made, and we talked about this would make a good TV show, and we talked about What If. So the fact that it's finally actually happening, I never would have thought that it would even be possible. I never thought about doing it animated, but
and that allows you to do a lot of different things with being animated. So
and it allows you to actually have the real MCU cast come in and be part of it.
Right, exactly. Well, and I love, by the way, the Captain Britain with Peggy Carter. I'm loving that. Just the clips I'm seeing, I'm like, I love Peggy Carter anyway, and she's a beautiful actress. But yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so excited for this. This will be fun. And it looks like they're also going to do the Marvel Zombies, and they're going to do all sorts of things.
That's
so you're like,
I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
That was
it'll be cool.
Run.
Yep.
So side topic here, just real quick to throw this out there. I don't know if you've seen this yet. I guess this dropped today, but did you see that it's officially confirmed that Miles Morales is getting introduced in Spider-Man 3?
No, I did not see that. I will have to go.
I didn't watch the video. All I saw was it was a video on YouTube that just said officially confirmed by Sony or Marvel or whoever that Miles Morales will be introduced in Spider-Man 3.
Nice. As long as we don't have to do the comic book version and kill off Peter Parker to bring Miles in to be Spider-Man.
Right. I don't see that happening. Tom is way too popular.
I agree, and I love Miles, but I just don't want to. And for those that don't know, that was in a alternate universe that Miles Morales came from, where he becomes Spider-Man. Peter Parker dies in the Ultimate Universe, and Miles takes up basically takes up the mantle of Spider-Man from that point. And if you read the comics currently, you'll notice there's two Spider-Man in the current modern era, which is kind of confusing, but it's all right.
Yeah. It makes sense if you read the comics.
Well, as long as I guess Ben Reilly is not one of them, I guess we're okay.
Oh, don't let AJ hear you say that.
the Clone War stuff. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was terrible.
Spider-Man
but I hope that the rumors of the whole. Well, obviously they're going to be doing multiverse shenanigans for this phase of the MCU, and that's why we've got all these bad guys from the Raimi movies coming over and stuff like that. Now, will we see Tobey and Andrew Garfield? I don't know. I'm not going to buy into that until they make an official announcement of it.
And that's exactly where I've been on GeekyKOOL. I've not been running those because every one of them's like, so-and-so, privately shared this with me. I can't reveal who they are. I'm like, okay. Yeah. If
Until
you do that,
official announcement is made, I will hold on to hope, but will not say this is what it is. But I'm hoping that it is these multiverse shenanigans that brings in Miles, and that Miles will actually be his own thing.
That would be great.
I had heard a thing a while back, and this was from like one of the insider type people or whatever, that had said that they were going to introduce Miles as sort of a compromise so that Sony could have their Spider-Man universe and there could also be the MCU Spider-Man without screwing up continuities by having them both making Spider-Man movies. So that Sony could focus more on Miles, MCU could focus more on Peter. Hopefully that's true. Because I would like to see
that would be
them
good.
There. Occasionally crossover, fine. But overall, let them be their own thing because that's how those characters work best.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, we are approaching an hour mark, and that's kind of what we were wanting to do. We try to always do an hour, but we rarely do that. But I think we're going to make it here today, Shpoo. So thank you for sitting in for AJ for us and sharing your thoughts on WandaVision and all that going on. So wanted, before we go, to give out some shout outs to some of our friends out there. Of course, we've got the Nerd Informants. You can find them on YouTube and Facebook. These guys are great. You need to go check them out if you haven't already.
I would love to collaborate with them sometime.
We need to. We've had them on before. We need to have them on again and just do like a big mega party. I think that would be awesome. But those guys are awesome. So we also have Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield. Just a warning if you're watching us, because we keep things PG and pretty clean, and Pop Culture Minefield's not that place. They're very funny. They give you amazing information. These are good friends of ours. We've had Keith on a lot, and Gary's been on the show. But the show is hysterical. If you're 14, 15, whatever, if bad words don't offend you and don't offend your parents, and you're probably good to go. But know that there will be some language on their show. There always is, but it's usually out of trying to make Keith laugh. And plus, Gary doesn't pull punches much. He tells what he thinks. So, Keith will talk, for 10 minutes about something, and you're like, "So, did you answer the question?" But Gary, he'll just be blunt and use some colorful metaphors in telling you that. So, and of course, Scallywag Productions over on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram for their memorabilia of the day, or what it's called.
You can see all this stuff that's behind me and over there and stuff like that. Yeah. And oh, sorry.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Shows every Monday through Friday. It's a different show every day of the week. Now we were off last week and we're off this week. Basically, we try to kind of film everything a week or two in advance, and we had a member of the Scallywag family that passed away, and so we kind of took some time off for that. But we will be back next week, and yeah, we do. We have an Unsolved Mystery show on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The rest of the week is all comedy stuff with me, Monday through Friday. So check it out. A little something for everybody.
Yeah, all of it is really entertaining. And so I suggest checking them all out. Make sure you guys subscribe to all of these guys. Go over to their Facebook accounts. Go over and give them the like. Go over to the YouTubes. Subscribe. Hit the bell. All of that good stuff. And please do that for our site also. Checking out these videos. Go hit the little button down below. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's going on. Watch us live. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Usually every Tuesday, 6:30 to 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever Central Time.
Till we're done.
Till we're done, right? And that usually, if Keith is on, that could be a while. And God love Keith, so we love you, Keith. I'm not bashing you, bud. But come check us out at GeekyKOOL.com. We're always getting up articles and videos. We try to put out the latest trailers, any news going on, original articles about stuff. I did one on WandaVision a couple weeks ago. Got none of it right, but that's okay. We that was the whole point, was just to have fun speculating on it. But check us out, guys. And the Scallywag is one of our partners. His videos are always up on our site. But go subscribe to YouTube anyway. So you can come over to our site and watch them, but go ahead and hit that like button, everything else, or the subscribe button on YouTube. It does.
And you're done. That's all it takes.
And then you don't miss anything.
Done.
You never miss anything if you do that. Just do it.
Even if you don't like the videos, you don't have to watch them just because you subscribe. Hey,
right,
helps me out.
and as we're ending, we've got a comment here. We've got Zachary watching. Hey, Zachary, thanks for watching. We appreciate it.
Like the Grogu picture.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. There would be a topic of interesting discussions. Where is that show going next? That would be some fun speculation at some point.
News on season 3 is starting to trickle out slowly but surely. But the only thing I've really heard so far is the male, I forget his name, but the male Mandalorian guy that was with Bo-Katan. You'll notice he wasn't in the finale. And they were asking Katie Sackhoff why that was. And she's like, I don't believe I'm supposed to say. Because he has been confirmed for season 3, so I guess his arc is going to end up being he's going to end up being a bigger character, and whatever he was doing during that episode is something that was or will be important.
Right.
So, we'll see.
It'll be exciting, and I love they brought in Katie Sackhoff for that. That was awesome. So, all right, guys, thank you for joining us. We always appreciate everybody that watches. We appreciate you checking us out later. Make sure to, as we said, check everybody out and do all the subscribing thing. Have yourself a great week and stay geeky, and we'll talk to you guys later.